We're going up, up, up to the upper Marae, where stories lift and voices fly. Put your tea towels down, let your worries fade. Open the gates, let the memories cascade. In this podcast world, we give it our best. So grab your cup or come say hi, no jest. We're going up to the upper Marae, where conversations flow and spirits can't lie.
Welcome to the Upper Marae podcast. I'm your host, Nigel, and I'm going head-to-head with Dr. Alexander Stevens. In this episode, we're exploring the realities of financial capability and how inequality shapes the way people earn, spend, save, and plan for their futures. Tarofa,
Kia ora.
How are you?
Good.
How are you
Good.
doing?
One of those days. But yes, I'm good, thank you. And you?
Okay. I'm okay. There's a few things in my personal life that are spinning.
Right.
But it's just requiring a little bit of energy. But we're all good. I'm here, I'm present, and I'm looking forward to our kōrero. All right, first question. What is financial capability, and why is it important in modern societies?
Okay, great question. So think of financial capability as often associated with financial literacy, right? But they're different. Financial literacy is learning about different things, strategies, techniques, often associated with money.
Mm-hmm.
Financial capability is the doing. It's the practicing of it. So it's one thing to learn how to do a budget, which is financial literacy. It's another thing to actually apply it. So when you start to apply it, then you're looking at financial capability. So that's the first part. When I think of financial capability, I think about my previous role at the Commission for Financial Capability, which was also known as the Retirement Commission.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at 5 key areas, which was budgets, debts, insurances, wills and testaments, and investments. So the 5 key things looked at: how do we get New Zealanders ahead towards retirement, and then being able to thrive rather than survive.
That's good. That's pretty good.
Does that help?
Well, yeah, I never thought about it that way. It sounds like one's more theory, and the other one is like actually doing it.
Yes. It's like social work. You could just do a regular social work degree and learn all the technical stuff. There's a couple of universities I'm thinking of. Or there's a Polytech, there's a really good one that I used to teach at, which was the applied.
Yes.
The actual doing of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. But essentially, so when we're talking about financial capability for this podcast, I'm talking about putting things into action.
Okay. How does income inequality affect people's ability to build financial security?
Well, hugely. If we looked at, say, gender, for example, we know that women earn less than men, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. If we broke it down further and, say, looked at ethnicity groups, we know that our Pacific community earn less than, say, our European counterparts. I think Māori aren't that far ahead of our Pacific as well. When we start to break down some of those reasons, education is often associated with it. When I looked and worked at the Commission, we looked at generational wealth. So we know that generational wealth can play a huge part in terms of inequality. So for some of our whānau and Ainga, Nigel, we know that money isn't a regular thing, and people sometimes go from paycheck to paycheck, right? So if you're going from paycheck to paycheck, you start to set up your behaviours and mannerisms that are accustomed to living that kind of life. And conversely, if you come from a family that, say, has, say, middle-class income, and we're now living in times where even middle-class income is, we're kind of living on a greater divide. Again, your behaviours and patterns are set up differently compared to those who've got substantial wealth. I'll give you an example. So growing up, 0 was my norm. So even when I earned good money, I would often go and spend all my money until I went back to 0, because that's what was my norm. I had lived that way for a good X amount of years. I think it was like 24, 25. So I would spend everything and just wait for the next paycheck to kind of turn up. Can you relate to this at all?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's the reality for a lot of working class people. I wouldn't say like Māori Pacific, I'll just say like working class people.
Yes.
Because, there are Pākehā or non-Māori, non-Pacific that are also going from paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about like how our people got by back in the day before we were introduced to currency.
Sure.
And so, it was on goodwill, it was on respect, it was on caring for your fellow neighbour, it was about caring for your whānau, it was about caring for your village.
Mm.
And so, like when we think about our traditional whaalavilavi, for example, which is it's starting to become more and more of a curse word.
Yeah, well, define it. Define it for those that might not have heard
So
it before.
whaalavilavi literally translates to an interruption or a disturbance or something's happened that has interrupted the flow of like the life cycle or daily activities.
Mm-hmm.
So within like a Samoan context, a whaalavilavi could be a wedding or a funeral or some sort of church obligation, or it could be different things, different activities which involve the family, the whānau, the church, the village getting together to put together their resources to complete this this thing that needs to be taken care of.
Right.
And so back in the day, we didn't have money. And so what we did was whatever you had off the land. So it would be food,
Yes.
it would be animals, coconuts, fish. So basically whatever you had access to, you'd bring that, and that would be exchanged with fine mats, with tapa. These days, it's a lot of the stuff has been exchanged out for money. And so we're seeing thousands of dollars being exchanged between parties.
Mm.
And I've been to a lot of whaalavilavi
Mm-hmm.
in the last sort of 5 years, and I have seen tens of thousands of dollars exchanged back and forth. And like I love our cultural stuff, but I do believe that the experience that's coming out from other Pacific researchers, which talk about and highlight the challenges of us, specifically Samoans, and I guess our other Pacific whānau,
Mm-hmm.
living abroad and trying to budget their money, but also trying to meet the obligations of church and of family and of culture.
Yes.
And so it's how do we find that balance? How do we avoid putting people into significant debt? Because at the moment, the only thing we seem to be passing on as a legacy to our children and grandchildren is debt and bad habits.
Yes. Or habits that they don't know about necessarily. I often say you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And often it takes one generation to create financial wealth. And the next generation, if they don't learn those habits, can literally squander it. So I remember reading some research anyway that most generational wealth lasts for about 3 generations, and then
it's gone.
And then it's gone. So I guess that's one of the things that that I think about. The other thing that I think about, you talked about
Whaalavilavi.
Yes. I was also thinking about, in my previous roles and even now, it's like learning a different language. So, for example, when we talk about budgets, the language for budgets is very different to the language for insurance, which is different to investments, which is different to wills and testaments. All of it comes under financial capability, and yet they have very different language associated with it. So I'll give you an example. When we look at budgets, we use terms like in the red or in the black. In other words, you either have money or you don't, right? Savings is another word that might come into a budget. But what is savings? If you're looking at insurance, for example, you might need to look at terms and conditions. So what are, terms and conditions? You might come across a word called waiver. So what is that? If you're looking at investment, for example, you might need to look at things like, say, profit, is a good example. I mean, you've got shares. Give me an investment word that kind of comes to your mind. Dividends.
Yep. Paying out dividends.
Yeah, things that pay. So, I think you've touched on an important thing. So, when we look at this idea of inequity, it's a situation where people are treated unfairly or don't have equal access to those opportunities, resources, or outcomes, both deliberate and as well as not. As a quick example, Māori had 97% of their land confiscated off them. If you have 97% of your assets stripped of you, you're talking about land. So imagine that you had your land taken off you, you had your houses taken off you. How exactly are you going to generate wealth?
Yeah.
That then flung us from being in charge of our own financial destiny and then put us into poverty.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we still see that now in terms of looking at generational poverty and our whānau having to relearn some of those skills that have been taken away from them. And so I guess part of this podcast is how do we make changes, small changes to big changes that allow us to kind of get ahead.
Why do some people have access to resources, to funding, even to education around financial literacy and capability? Why are some groups of people able to access it more readily than others?
It's a good question. I guess it's contextual. Like I said, if we looked at, say, a history perspective, so for Māori, there was loss of land, language, and resources, so that reduced the economic opportunities for Māori communities to be able to benefit. Not everyone earns the same or has equal job opportunities. So I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but say someone who might be cleaning, unless you own the business, might not have the same pay rate as, say, someone in my role as a senior Māori academic.
Yep.
For example, there's quite a broad.
Yep. There's a couple of levels.
Yes.
Significant levels.
Yes. We know that Māori and Pacific are statistically more likely to experience unemployment or low incomes compared to the national average, right? Education is a big difference. So, I've said this to you, Nigel, and I'm not embarrassed to say this. When I started my first job way back in the day, one of my jobs was a paper round, and I had to deliver, pack and save, countdown, flyers. Do you remember getting that ink all over your hands when you were putting it through?
Yep. I used to carry a bag, and it was full of. I used to do a couple of trips actually because I couldn't get all the papers into one bag.
Yes.
So I'd go and then come back and then go and come back. And sometimes people would help.
Yeah.
I get what you mean.
Right. And so I might make, I don't know, it was 300 or 400 a month, I think. Depending on how many.
Well, back then it was a lot of money.
Yes. But when I think I was 13, 14, that was a lot of money in my own head. Then I got my first full-time job working at Georgie Pie. I was on $5.25
Georgie Pie
an hour.
Yeah,
it's why I'm a portly fellow. I think I blame Georgie Pie for all the free pies that we got when the shift finished. But I was on $5.25, and I remember thinking, this cannot be my lot.
Yeah,
in life.
Yeah,
and so I was about 16 or 17. Jumping ahead, then I did other jobs, and I then became a manager at Sounds Music, which is now gone, so I don't mind sharing this confidential stuff. I think how much I'm earning.
I think a lot of the podcasters listening through won't quite remember Sounds.
Yeah, well, I was based in Papatoa, which is around the corner from Dawn Raid.
Yes, entertainment.
Yeah, so I got to meet your local celebrities. Now, as a manager of a music store, which turnover per week was about 30,000 a week. I didn't think it was that bad. I was on $11.50.
Yep.
Oh, and that's and then there was youth rates.
I was going to ask, what was the minimum wage back then?
Yeah, so the minimum wage back then was about $40,000 to $45,000. I wasn't anything like that.
Shucks, that reminds me. That was the When I first started social work, that was my annual salary.
Was it? Wowzers.
But I wasn't a social worker for the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, that's right. Remember, that's what I said in class. If you're here to become a millionaire,
Yeah.
you might as well walk out, get a business degree, get some contracts and hire a social worker. That's how you're going to make your money. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I realized that I was surviving from paycheck to paycheck, but it wasn't. I wanted more. I wanted options. Growing up, we were often, Mum would say, we can either afford bread or milk. And so growing up, I wanted to have both, not just have one. So I realized that education was going to help me. Pointless now that I'm a diabetic and lactose intolerant, so I can't have either of them officially. But I realized that education would make a difference. And so, I'd studied in foundation education at Manukau Institute of Technology. And at that particular stage of my very early 20s, I was doing the counselling pathway. And I knew that counselling earned quite good money if you went into your own practice. I mean, my main motivation really was to help people, but if money also was there as well, then that was a nice thing. So when we think about some of these differences anyway, what we know is that within communities, schools and low-income communities have fewer resources. If you don't have a qualification, it's highly likely that you probably don't have the same opportunities to salary ranges. Some of the people that I work with, for example, Nigel, actually I can give you 2 examples. One trained to become a support worker and he's in his 50s, had no quals, and I think he was on the bare, what is the minimum wage now? Ooh,
27 start now, starting in support work.
Well, he's now in Melbourne and he's on 35 an hour, and that's just from one level 4 certificate from the Open Polytech.
Yeah.
So, education does make a difference. Then we've got things like housing costs. So many low-income families spend a large part of their income on rents and mortgages, and then that leaves less money for savings, education, health needs, and then there's obviously access to financial services. So some communities have less access to fair financial products. So we know that they're what we call loan sharks, and they're really good at pulling in our whānau and ainga.
Yes.
Pretending to be their best friends, but the interest rates are disgusting.
Yes.
And then we get into cycles of what we call financial hardship and even abuse. So all of that can trap people into cycles of debt, reduce financial capability. On top of those things, like I said before, gender pay, gender gap pay, and ethnic minorities and migrants might not have the, they often face barriers in employment and or housing. I went on a little bit of a...
No, it's good.
I mean, kind of an in-depth.
I think that this is a conversation that needs to be expanded on, because I think there's links to mental health, right? The impacts on mental health.
Addictions.
Yeah, family violence. Like money is often a
suicide
factor. So, I mean, this is probably one of maybe 10 podcasts on this particular topic, but then also focusing on the impacts on vulnerable communities.
Absolutely. There was one stage, which I won't name the financial provider, where they were charging interest that was over 500%. They can't do it now, though, because laws that my colleagues and I advocated for capped it, but at one stage it was something like 525% interest. You would never be able to get out of that loan.
Going back to the word loan shark.
Yes.
They just circle these vulnerable families and people.
Yes.
And they play off their needs. Like, they need the money now, but they're not really in a mental state to consider, or they probably don't even understand the languaging. Like,
that's right.
Going back to what you were talking about words like waiver.
Yes.
And
terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions, consolidation, like big words like that.
Like,
I know that all that jargon in a application, and you and I, we're quite educated, but we probably even need glossaries to look at the words. We're like, what does that mean again? What does this mean again? But for a lot of these families, they're just like, I'll just do anything because I need the money, because
that's right.
I need it for something, a whalawe or a death or a passing that's happened, and so I need to take that money to do this. But they don't think about the consequences. They don't think about the consequences later on. Like $500,000. Sorry, 500%
Yes.
interest rate. That's. I'm pretty sure that's over a decade. That's over a decade trying to pay that off.
Yes. And if they default, then you get additional fines.
Or they take your stuff.
That's right.
They take your property.
Yes.
They take your car, or they take your house.
Yes.
So things like that. So it's just.
And often, when you were saying, look, why is there a difference? So often whānau and families don't know that there's something called a cooling off period. Right? So a cooling off period is a certain amount of time after signing a contract during which the person can change their mind and cancel the agreement without facing major penalties. Now, loan sharks aren't necessarily going to emphasize that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You and I are both 80s kids. When I think of loan sharks, I just play the Draws theme in my head, which steers me away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then can I also say to you, from a psychological perspective, we also know that there are people that can save and then those that don't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we also know that, we're still learning about those kind of psychological behaviors, because you can have siblings that are all raised together, but their spending behavior is very different. I'll be honest, I'm kind of in the middle. If I see something and I really want it, I'll probably get it.
I know this very well.
However, I don't have the urge to spend every single day. I tend to aim for nice things that are going to give me a return in capital and kind of...
Yeah, the increase in value, eh?
That's right.
They don't depreciate like a car.
Yes. But even the word depreciate is a good financial capability word. So, yes, does depreciate mean? But this is your journey, right? Like you've learned, along the way.
Sorry, just thinking about my whānau. If they hear words like depreciating, I don't have depreciate. It's not depression. It's a different word.
It's a different word.
Yeah.
And so, you and I are good at, because we've done our own financial capability journeys along the way. And again, going back to inequality, if you don't have people that can help guide you towards it, neither of us, we should put out a little, we're not financial advisors. Although I'm thinking about studying that next year, but right now, as in 2006, we are not financial advisors. Yeah. However, if you're going to be around people who are, by nature, have insurance and investments in Kiwis, you're much more likely to show an interest in those that don't.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think we have our own stories as well of overcoming our own debts.
Yes.
And overcoming our own habits. Like myself, I don't have a student loan anymore. Yeah. Paid off over $83,000. It wasn't easy. So I paid off those debts. I paid off my own personal loans as well. And so I started to develop these habits, financial habits. So not spending beyond your means, or rather than putting something on lay-by or putting it on loan, just saving up and then getting that thing, a bit of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Whereas for a lot of people in our communities, they don't have that ability.
That's right.
And they're probably surrounded by others who also don't have that ability. And so it's almost like a nature versus nurture sort of thing. So if you surround yourself with people who don't know how to do it, then you end up with these really bad financial habits.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember what you said once, don't ask somebody that's never done it before.
Yes. So if you're going to bungee jump, don't ask someone who hasn't bungee jumped.
Yeah.
The same works with money as well.
Yeah.
Can I say to you, a good example of inequality could be, God forbid, someone hits a car but doesn't have insurance. Even third party, you could owe thousands and then as a result set yourself back. And you know this because with the other two, with our Sione and Irie that aren't here, I warmly manakied, aka forced them to at least get third-party minimum. I think they've got full coverage.
Yeah.
Because if something happens to them, they're going to get pushed back. Whereas I'm interested in how do we get ahead together, as a collective, bit by bit. So if you had a car and it's your fault, at least you've got insurance to then cover you. Yes, you've got to pay, things, I can't even remember
The excess.
the excess. However,
Another word.
yes, excess. However, paying a $400 to $500 excess, I'm sure you would agree, is lesser than paying up to $20,000, even $50,000. I can think of a client who hit a lamp, a post, the lamp, and owed cracked it in half, and owed $50,000 to council. So so 1 minute you're ahead, then you're set back.
That's right. That's that. What was it like? 1 step forward, 2 steps back,
Or in this case, 100 steps back. Like yourself, I also have had, I think it was up to $92,000 worth of student loans at one point, and then I spent 2 years just working 3 jobs and just smashing it out.
Wasn't there an article with you?
There was.
Something?
There was.
There you go, podcast. Have a look at it. Try and find that article.
Yeah. Because I wanted to get ahead, and then I also wanted to play it smart. So, once I got myself out of debt, then I was like, how do I ensure that I don't go back into that generational trap?
Yeah. How does financial stress impact mental health and physical health?
Yeah. So I'll tie it back into financial capability just for context. So at the moment, one person supports 4 people in retirement. By the time it hits 2035, it'll be one person will support 8 people in retirement. So it's not a model that's going to work long term. This is why when we talk about lifting the retirement age, people do a haka hola and even 67, right? So at the moment you can retire at 65.
Yeah.
And they're looking at lifting the age to 67 because we're living longer overall. So imagine that you're someone who is retired. Say you need a new roof. I can think of classic examples where, they've had like a lot of hail and rain damage. So people that are in retirement, they're in the mid-70s, have to somehow afford a $20,000 roof.
Yeah.
Right? How are they going to get that?
They have to go back into debt, right?
Yes, they have to go back into debt. So then they have to often take a mortgage out of their house and to try to pay for it. But if they don't have the income to pay for it, then they're going to get themselves.
Yep.
As an example, right?
Yep.
Conversely, our younger ones don't think about being 65. Why would you? I didn't even think I'd make it to 65, but I was in my early 20s, Nigel. So, why would you think about saving towards old age? You live for the now.
Yeah, because you're young.
Yes.
You think you're going to live forever. You think you're bulletproof.
Yes, all of that. So what we know is that the sooner that we can support our young ones from saving, the much more likely they'll have a nice chunk of cash to be able to help them in the now, as well as heading towards retirement. So, KiwiSaver is a great example of how we support our young ones. And by young, I mean, say our those that are in their early 20s. I think it's probably the best way to help our Māori, Pacific, and other ethnicity groups. Do you think that we should make it mandatory or not mandatory to have KiwiSaver?
The younger version of me is like, no.
Yes, sure.
Because I've got years ahead of me to save up. But the older version of me is like, thank God I have Kiwi.
Yes.
Thank God I've got KiwiSaver to lean back on.
Yes.
And so we're blessed with in the middle.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, I can see both sides of the argument. And I can see both sides of the argument. But I'm always risk averse. And so I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to do to avoid pain and suffering in the future?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'd love to have it start at an age, but then the onus is on the individual to opt out. Instead of, it's your choice whether you opt in.
Right.
Or not.
Right.
So I'd rather...
It should just be automatically out.
Yeah, so I'd like to see somebody like 18.
Right.
KiwiSaver's opened up automatically.
Yeah.
But then, because the age of consent, right? So they can turn around and say,
True.
oh, I don't want KiwiSaver. Cool, then they have to opt out.
Yeah.
I think some companies, some employers already do that. So it's part of the package where you're already automatically enrolled in.
Yes.
But then you have the responsibility to get out of the KiwiSaver plan.
Australia is compulsory, and I feel that even though I know that we've got a lot of disparities amongst ethnicities, I do think it's the best way to get ahead long term. So I do think it should be compulsory. Looking back, what I know is that if if I talk about a Māori community, for example, I know that there are a number of challenges for them, but then I also think if they have some kind of savings behind them, even though it's compulsory, they're much more likely to have, a good nest egg. Even say for example, the minimum, I don't know, was 20,000, for example. Well, 20,000 is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So I know that it's a controversial issue. It'll take a brave government to even make it compulsory, because like lifting the retirement age, it's not a vote winner.
Yeah.
But what we argued anyway when we were when I was at the Retirement Commission was it was like incremental changes. It wasn't just straight away.
Yeah.
I think our old people started lifting up their walking sticks and saying, "I've worked my ass off," and it's like it's not applying to you; it's applying to those that are in their 20s.
Yeah.
Calm the fun.
Yeah.
Head back to bed. Take some lorazepam. Chill.
Yeah.
But I think that some of these things need to change if we've got. I'll put it this way: we need to make changes. Otherwise, it's going to be we're going to head towards basically a model that's not going to look at supporting all of New Zealand.
Okay.
Long term.
Yeah. I think it's something you and I think about often is the long game.
Well, yes.
You got to think about the long game. Unless you're 65 already, it's like, well.
Yes. Well, this is the other thing that comes up, and this is why I get torn, because then people say, well, what about in terms of inequity? We know that Māori and Pacific live less than our European counterparts, often between 10 to 15 years, depending on the stats that you see. So some will argue, well, shouldn't we have access to our KiwiSaver sooner rather than later?
Yeah.
I always love the ones that say, my nanny has been smoking and drinking and she's 97 years old. I'm like, everyone has a nanny.
And I struggle with that. I struggle when people take anecdotal evidence and they say that's evidence that's going to benefit, the majority. And I'm like, no, that's just your one example, which is 0.001% of the population.
Yes. Where was my thoughts on that? I guess so in terms of lifespan, so you could argue that that we should get access to our funds sooner rather than later. I'm kind of on the fence with that one. So in New Zealand, Māori do have a shorter life expectancy than our Pākehā counterparts. And this difference is mainly by inequalities in health, education, access to resources, as well as long-term effects of colonisation and social disadvantage. So all these things put the risk of illness and reduced well-being. In our last podcast, Nigel, we spoke about that for some families, not all, sometimes overcrowding can also be seen as living collectively together, and it isn't a problem.
Yeah.
Except if you get some kind of illness, because you're living in an overpopulation, then everyone
gets sick.
Yes. So.
Okay. Next question. So what role should governments play in reducing financial inequality?
Okay, well, this is what I think. For goodness sake, stop tampering with KiwiSaver. You don't have to be a financial expert to know. Stop tampering with KiwiSaver.
Yeah.
So, we had the government contribution. So for every dollar...
Yeah, they matched it.
Right? And then they tinkered with that. I think that we should remove the taxes that come off KiwiSaver. So, I think the government shouldn't touch that. And I think that, what you were saying before holds true. So I can feel myself getting hoha. KiwiSaver is a long-term strategy to help Māori and whānau in general.
Yeah.
Right? So leave the bloody thing alone. Every time governments tinker with it, I just think we're doing a setback that goes all the way back to Muldoon. For some of our listeners, they don't even know who that is, but Muldoon days, right? I think KiwiSaver is a good opportunity to get people ahead. and hopefully help them in retirement. So that would be one thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm really big on is to teach financial capability in schools.
Yes. Yes. What would that look like?
It's great that you asked this. So one of my friends actually fought hard to get some funding towards this, and it was called Sorted Schools. And there were schools that put their hands up and to get it trialed. So, for example, when you're hitting, what year now is sixth form and seventh form? This is how old I am now.
Year 11 is fifth form.
Right.
And year 12 is sixth form.
Right. Whatever, yeah. Aim for there. No one cares when you're out of school. Teaching things like bills. Electricity bills and power bills and internet bills.
Yeah.
Mobile plans, for example, teaching our young ones that money, got to pay for bills. Then also looking at investments. One of the things that I really enjoy now, Nigel, is working with young ones who are interested in, I love this, and wanting to invest in like Bitcoins, gold and silver. And I'm like, where did you come from? What magical paddock?
Yeah. They would have seen it online on TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah. That stuff inspires me. One of the things that I do think is achievable outside of Auckland is buying a house, because then you've got an asset.
It's been that's why they call them landlords, eh?
Yes.
And that's why, and going right back to what you were talking about, how a lot of Māori were alienated from their land.
Yeah.
They're already on the, I feel like the way to describe it is they're already put into the system. You disconnect them from their land, like let's put them to the system, which they don't understand.
Yeah.
They have to try and navigate through. And if they really want their land back, let's make it really hard for them to get their land back.
Yeah.
And so all those land confiscations, can you imagine would we still have like the negative outcomes that we're seeing from Māori if they had their land?
Exactly.
To use as equity.
Yes.
For whatever project, whatever community project or whānau project that they wanted to do. They can borrow often. And I'm saying that because in Samoa, a lot of our people, we still have land. And we use that to get loans from the bank to do stuff.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we use it for fight level love, but that's another kōrero. That's another kōrero we can have.
Well, can I just quickly say, I remember this, for our Tongan communities, their version were mats, where they would give mats and then they would go to loan and get money off them, and then, so that's a good cultural example. But we also know that some of the banks find it hard in a Māori context if you've got people with multiple, if there are multiple people on a land title, because you'd have to then get permission. So, anyway, but yes, that's kind of what I was thinking. What was the question again? I just want to make sure I've nailed that one.
Oh, it was about the government.
Oh, yes, the government.
What can the
great
government
people
do to help with, I guess, financial capability?
Yes. Stop stop taxing the dividends that come from KiwiSaver. Stop tinkering with it, and for goodness sake, the whole idea of matching dollar for dollar up to $525 and then messing around with that just seems silly to me. And I feel as a New Zealand citizen, what it screams is that you're not interested in investing in New Zealand's, well-being. I mean, even the term well-being comes from wealth. Wealth didn't always mean money. Wealth literally meant well-being. It looked at the wealth of someone's overall health.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that this is a good topic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And every government does things differently. So the next government will come in and they'll promise us the world, and they'll say, it's a long-term plan, and so we can't be in there for one term, we have to be in there for multiple terms so we can get this going. But then, you see the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, and then you're wondering, okay,
why is this? This is why there's been some law changes overseas that I don't want to get misquoted, but something along the lines of, if a government has promised something and they don't deliver, that they be held accountable.
Yeah.
It's almost like a lie kind of thing. And I just think if we held our politicians to this and said, you promised this, you've said this, and you haven't delivered, you will be held to account. I wonder how that would shape and shift.
Yeah.
you know.
People would be more honest.
Yes, but you'd have to be, otherwise you'd be held to account.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
No, that's okay.
I think we've got time for one more question.
Excellent. What are you going to hit me with?
Is it possible to achieve true financial equality in a capitalist society?
I don't think so. I'm happy to know what your thoughts are. Because I almost feel like some of the systems, and we've talked about this, are kind of geared towards having that not occur.
Yep.
Full stop. So then given that, what's the way forward? The way forward is learning about these different financial capability and financial literacy.
Yeah.
And if I had any kind of non-financial advice, that no one could take me to court with this, non-financial advice, it would be to learn the gift of patience. Too often when I'm working with our own Māori and Pacific communities, it's like, get rich.
Yeah.
Now?
Yes.
And then they want to be millionaires and billionaires.
Well, they want to own businesses, eh?
Yeah.
I want to own a business because if I own a business, then that fixes my financial problem. But they're like, no, your habits are still
locked in place.
You still got poor man habits.
That's right. You spend money like it's rotting.
Yeah.
When it should be growing.
Yeah.
That's why we call them money trees. Right? So, and you know, and you and I are good examples of that. So, you know, in my early 20s, actually even beyond that 16, 17, I think about it. Like I said, $5.25, jumped onto 12, went on to 20. You know, and again, this depends on different professions, but now I'm on, you know, 100 plus an hour, but that didn't take a couple of months. That took years of hard work and making sure I've put myself in a position where I believe the colloquial expression is to earn your stripes.
Yeah.
Now, can I just say, that won't always be there. At some point, you know, some little arrogant horsey or kiddo, and they might be associated with this podcast, might come along and, you know, and rightfully so, earn their stripes. So I'm very clear that, and I'm sure there's biblical stuff about money, but, you know, there's like a season.
Yeah.
So, you know, you work for that season, you work hard for it, which is what I'm doing.
Yes.
My health is still holding for now, so I'm going to work very hard towards it. And God willing, brother, I actually make it to 65, and I'm in reasonably good condition.
Yeah.
Hopefully all that hard work that I've put will help me get.
I think so.
You know, ahead. So that's my advice. Patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
And if you have a family, then recognize that it's highly, you know, like unless you've got your own business, which is slightly different, you know, what you're wanting to do is to teach the next generations your own mistakes and also your own learnings to get them ahead, because it'll be highly likely they'll probably benefit from it more than what you have.
Yeah. So it's that, like, I'm a Christian, so it's that reaping and sowing principle, eh?
Yes.
So you reap what you sow.
On that.
And then, so it's like, if you don't sow good financial habits now, then you're going to reap poverty.
Yes.
But if you do sow good financial habits, if you do learn about savings and teach about budgets and balancing budgets and expenses and incomes, then, you know, you're going to get it. You know, you're going to get, you know, you're going to have something to leave behind for your kids. You're going to have a house, or you're going to have money for retirement, or you'll have money to spend on like holidays, you know, to do things. But that's not the case now, you know. And it's having this conversation with young people and saying, hey, look, I know you really want it now, but you'll get to enjoy it later. Yeah. And there's something I heard online years ago, and I think I've shared it with you. So people say you work hard now, party later, or you party now and then work later. You choose which you want to do. Yeah. But there's no out of working. Right. You don't get out of, you don't opt out of working. Yeah. 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 I do think that there, you know, within financial capability, I do think that there are moments where you should celebrate, you know, head off on a holiday. Yeah. Or something. But to kind of finish off what you're saying, I mean, I like what Yoda said, which is just pass on what you've learned. Yeah. That's it. So as we come to the end of today's kōrero, thank you for joining us here at the Upper Marae. We hope this conversation has given you something to think about when it comes to financial capability and the impact of inequality in our communities. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. The gates of the Upper Marae are now closing.
Kia ora.